Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I'm going to show y'all how to make your very own felted leaf starting from scratch. So let's go ahead and get started. Randy and I had gone out leaf picking. We were just on a walk and it was like picking flowers but picking leaves up off the ground, and we found quite a few that I thought were excellent specimens of some different, white oak, maple. Like, check this one out. It actually had, like, I don't know, just really interesting variation. And so I recommend going out and picking some leaves and probably putting them in a book. That way they don't curl up like that as they dry. But I also really do like to see how their natural behavior is too, how they may, crinkle and form and stuff. And some of these, I really loved the contrast of coloring along the veining. I really loved that one. And you could trace them. This one would be perfect for kind of laying out and tracing, as with this one here. But the leaf I decided to go with was this one, because I really love that green, flash in the veining. And there will be links to all the different tools and materials that I'm using down in the video description below. And anything that you purchase through those links, a small amount goes towards our company. So I really appreciate y'all supporting us that way with how you do. But it can also give you an idea of just, what terms to search for if you'd prefer to find different sellers. But I was gifted actually, a roving batch of like a bunch of different colors. So I've gone through and tried to pick out as many colors as I could, out of the leaf. I didn't want it to be too complicated, but I wanted to be able to really get a lot of different layers, because the more blending and layers that you do in your piece, the more depth it's going to give it, the more, lifelike it may appear. And then this is some roving that I had gotten at Michael's. And I'm using this as the base because it's a little bit scratchier of a yarn, but also I have more of it, so I was going to use that kind of as the core. And then build this nicer roving with a finer grain to it up on top of that. The needles that I'm using are just triangle shaped needles. And I have a single and then a multiple. I'm still very much a beginner at this, so I'm not getting too much into the particulars of, well, this needle works best for that and this needle works best for that. I'm more just trying to get the hang of it, and I like sharing the process of that with y'all. So I'm just widening out my roving a bit. Now I'm going to grab and just, it doesn't work if you hold your hands very close together, but if you hold them farther apart, it actually tears quite easily. So I'm going to lay this, that away. Oh, a little clump. Spread this out a little bit and pull and lay this that away. So I decided to go ahead and print off a template. This was a sugar maple and a sugar maple leaf. And so now we can lay this over our work, and at this point it's actually still quite easy to unfelt our roving. So I'm just spreading it out. Making sure that everything is lined up. Then I'm actually going to tack this just to my thing. It should be using pins and needles, but... And now we can go through with a proper template. And I'm focusing on an up and down motion. If we have any little spots where there's just no roving, we can go ahead and fill it in. This is very similar in concept to using like a polymer clay cookie cutter or, you know, something like that, but I feel like there's more versatility because you can print off whatever you like, but you do have to cut it out, which I just used a craft knife to do that. And so you can see it's just, it felted it right in. I'm going to pull off just a little bit more again. I want that for my tip down here. Now, it doesn't have to be completely straight up and down. You can come in at an angle. You just want to make sure that you're not bending the needle. And so now I'm going to throw this into time lapse so that y'all can see kind of what I'm doing in a much more timely manner. Because I do not want this to, I mean, it's time consuming. It is. That's just kind of how it rolls. But we have the magic of editing, so let's do that. So we have finished shaping out our leaf. The template really helped. And what's great to know is that no two leaves are exactly the same. So don't beat yourself up if it's not like, oh my god, it's not perfect. It's just, it's a leaf. It's natural. It's organic. It does its thing. And so now I'm coming through and just lifting this. We're going to get some distortion and we're going to get some purple lifted from our mat. In a perfect world, I would have a good color for each project color of mat, but ain't nobody got time for that. And this is where using foam would come in pretty handy because it doesn't felt it to it, but you can see it lifts off pretty easily. And it gives us a wonderful opportunity to tidy up our lines a little bit more. But I do want to come through and here on the back side where it's a little crazy, I'm going to start adding in some more colors. So these are how the little bits of roving came in the mail. And what's nice about it is actually quite long roving. So I'm just going to pull off a bit and then put it back into the bag because I like this roving nice and clean the way that it is without a bunch of dog fur in it. Now I'm going to be going through and adding in these little touches of color. And I just take a little at a time. I mean, a quite little at a time. And I'm going to see how I have the bend here. I'm going to line that up almost with in between, I want to leave some yellow, you know, bright. So I'm just going to position it right where the little join would be. And then just tack it along very lightly. Tearing off just little bits. You can always add more. And I'm just going to be using this red here to define the edges of the veins in the leaf. And making sure to go ahead and lift my project as I go, because I don't want it felting too much to our felting mat. So just bringing it in, then tacking it along. And I'm going to throw this back into time lapse and just keep on keeping on. First layers of color put down. Pretty happy with it so far. I haven't done like the finer detailing and stuff, but I'm going around and tidying up the edges. And to do that, I'm laying it face down, and then I'm rolling, kind of grabbing and rolling back the felt, the little hairs, and then felting them in. And so I'm going to come around and I'm going to do that to all the sides whenever I get to the tips that I want to keep kind of nice and pointy. I tack it down a bit to the wool, just in a bunch of spots, and then kind of pull and twist the roving. And then any little scraggly bits I just fold back and tack down. So I'm pinching and then pulling, and as I pull those hairs outward, I tack them. And then we can pull that off. And it's quite messy, but now we can come around, and I focus on tightening in the curves, like the inside parts, if that makes sense. And then just kind of, oh, going off camera. And just grabbing the sides there and tightening it in. And I'm coming in from the side, that way on the front now, I can come in and just tack it down, and it's going to give us a much cleaner edge than what we did have. And I want to get my base shape, my base leaf completely like nice and felted before I start adding in the green detailing, like the more specific veining and stuff, because I'm gonna try to be doing some fine lines with that. So yeah, just coming around and kind of just pinching and rolling. And that's going to help give us some definition in the leaves. It also helps me keep track of where they are so I don't accidentally felt it in with the rest of the piece. So you got to exaggerate it a little bit almost. And then you don't want to pull on the needle so much that it bends, but I do kind of drag and capture the little stray hairs to bring them in. See kind of how that works. And then very carefully we can come around the edges just holding it between our fingers. They do sell finger guards for this, but I prefer to just be careful but still be able to feel what's going on. And so that gives us a way to tighten it up without like that's definitely final touch level, it keeps it tidy on both sides. So I'm going to go around and just start felting in from the edges. And anywhere that it's quite thin, I'll just come in and tighten it down a little bit more. And then go ahead and just keep on felting. Those calluses come in handy, but these needles are sharp, so watch out. So yeah, see the difference that makes. And then we can kind of come in and spread this out a little bit more. Or tighten it in, actually. I think I prefer it tightened in a bit. So just use your own preference. It's art. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You want to focus though on the technique. You want it to hold together. Because otherwise all of your work is for naught if it just falls apart after your first time or two wearing it. So there we are. I'm going to throw this back into time lapse, and well, actually, I think y'all are getting the idea, so I will just meet you guys back here whenever it's fully felted. So I got tired of stabbing myself with the needle, and so I went through and I took 2 lids from these little storage containers. You could use, I guess, anything that you have, like even soda bottle lids would work, but I liked that they were shallow and wide, so I don't think a soda bottle lid would work as well, and I'm using them almost like finger zills to protect my fingers, but more than anything, to keep my felt flat while I come through. And I'm making sure to keep my needle parallel to the little plastic plates that I'm using, the little lids, because I don't want to be stabbing the lid, I just want to be stabbing the felt. And so don't rush this, because you don't want to stab, you don't want to break your needle by stabbing the plastic. But this is giving us a much better way of being able to tidy up. And then we can come in, throw our needle anyways, and shape out, anything that we need to. I wanted that to be a little bit pointier. And so you can see we have quite a bit of coming off of there. So I'm just going to twist it, fold it back. And I think that offers a little bit more blending than if I were to just cut it off. But now I can pinch it, trying to keep the pressure uniform. Then come in through those sides. Adjusting frequently, but that's all right. And this really let me keep from going insane, from stabbing myself, and to really get in there, but more than anything too, to just keep it nice and flat, because we want that nice flat leaf. And see how tidy and nice that's helping it be. Okay, so now I shall resume, but I wanted to share that with you guys because I felt like, haha, I have done a thing. And even the finger protectors were like, more like those finger gloves for whenever you're doing polymer clay. It's just a little, you know, finger, like a glove, but just for your finger. Like, I'm pretty sure y'all know what I'm talking about, but hopefully. But those, but it's a little bit heavier duty. That way it actually does protect your fingers. I wanted something that would behave more like how these do, guiding it into a nice flat shape. So already you can see that's giving us a much denser corner. And I especially love it for getting into the base of these joins. Yeah, there we are. So we have come through and tidied up our edges. And I'm just going to say it is a lot easier if you just start with a pre-made felt, but it's nice to know that you do have options if you don't have a pre-made felt. So I'm just pulling off little bits. I think I'm gonna, yeah. So set that one up just like that. And just tack it down. I mean, very loosely. And then just little bits. I'm actually going to be folding that one in half. I don't mind doing a fold and a twist. That way I can still tack it. Tack, tack. Just like that. And so you can see that's kind of coming together. And I'm sure the more we do this, the better we'll get at it. The more subtle the variations we'll be able to accomplish. But for now, let's just focus on having fun. Because, especially in the beginning stages of learning a technique or, you know, a medium, if you're not having fun with it, then you're never going to stick with it enough to get to where you're quite good. You know, right now I feel like I'm not particularly all that great at needle felting. I mean, this is like my third project ever, but I really like it, and so I'm not going to focus on, oh no, this is no good. I'm going to focus on, that was a lot of fun. You know, and that can be a lot easier said than done. Trust me, it can be a lot easier said than done. But every project is an opportunity to practice not only your techniques, but being patient with yourself. Because you don't overnight go from gently or viciously undermining yourself to being like super, super duper confident. That does not happen overnight. It takes sometimes years of diligent practice to, train yourself out of being like, ah, that's garbage, I should just give up. So please, please be patient with yourself and keep at it. Because there's no telling what you might be able to accomplish with it. I mean, really. And so the felting really does kind of shrink everything down. So that's why we can just come back in and fill in the empty spots. Oh, that didn't line up very well at all, did it? Just scooch it on over. And just focusing on getting those veins in there. Now right now I'm using the lightest of the 3 greens that I had picked out. But we can go back over and layer on some darker greens. And so I'm just thickening up some of my veins, adding in some little side shoots. Also, something else that I do enjoy is embroidering, just hand embroidering on the veins and stuff. But needle felting's fun too. I mean, clearly, otherwise I wouldn't be planning a whole project around it. Or am I? I don't know. I've done entire projects of stuff that make me feel a little bit miserable, but that I like the look of. So it's, they say it about hiking, hike your own hike. Well, you can craft your own craft. Get out of it what you put out of it, what you need out of it, kind of stuff. There we go. And then just kind of pulling that off. And then that little tail, instead of trimming it, I'm just going to kind of pat it in and then stab it in. Sorry, I don't mean to be huffle snuffling in your ear, but it's that time of year again, so the heaters are coming on and the sinuses are drying out, and so there. All that good stuff. That's, I really love putting in the little detail bits. Okay, so let's see how that's looking on the back side. Well, pretty hairy. So now I'm going to come through with our multi-needle. And just tidy that up a bit. And at this point, you could go through and you could add in, I mean, just however much of depth or detail or intricacy. You could have stopped, 3 layers ago. Do your own project however suits you most. I just wanted to kind of show you guys how I'm enjoying mucking about with needle felting. And I am thoroughly enjoying mucking about with needle felting. We've got some nice solid sides. I think I'm going to go through and give it one last good tidying around the edges, because especially on the points, I want them to stay nice and crisp. And then that will be that. Though we do have the option to get some nice crinkling. You could just mold it and then steam it. But if you want a little bit more support behind that little bit of a crinkle, which can help take it from completely flat to just a little three-dimensional. Right there where I'm folding over, if we just come through and stab it, from both sides. And whenever it's quite hairy like that, I'll just kind of grab and twirl. So you can kind of see. I'm just twirling, not dragging too much, but then I'll start just felting it in, and it really helps tidy up all those little hairs. So again, we'll flip over, twirl, and see all of them, those little ones that it gathers up, and then we just stab it back in. So you can see those little fibers coming across, but now it has just that little bit of a pinch to it, and I think that can really help. And then we'll be able to go through, and however I decide to end up attaching this to my hat, we can either needle felt it on, or we can hand sew it, or just whatever we like. But there's our little leaf. Hey y'all, thanks so much for hanging out with me for this tutorial. I really hope that it was helpful to you, and I'm really excited to learn more about needle felting from those of y'all with more experience than me, and from us doing projects together like this. And I'm really excited to get this hat done. It's more of like a hood. I don't know, there's a couple of them. The more I work on these, the more I'm like, ooh, well, I need a hat like this, and I need a hat like that. Welcome to a new addiction. But I love this one. It didn't come out exactly like the original leaf, but it looks like a leaf-ish. If you guys have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. If you follow along with any of my wire wrapping, chainmail, leather, polymer clay felting, any of my tutorials, or just want to share pictures of your work, feel free to tag me on Instagram or post things to my Facebook wall. You can also, I think, post pictures to Patreon. It depends on whether it's like a laptop or a mobile phone, or a desktop or a mobile. But I'd love it if y'all posted pictures over there and stuff too, because Patreon's really great about like actually notifying me about these things. And you don't have to be a pledger or anything, though the more you pledge, the more behind the scenes access you'd get and all different things. Like we do monthly craft crates and all sorts of stuff. But thank you again for hanging out with me. There should be stuff popping up on the screen where you can subscribe, which you may or may not receive notifications, which is another reason to follow me on Patreon, because I send out like a weekly digest of new videos as well as live stream notifications. So again, you just have to have an account. You don't have to pledge anything. I'm not trying to squeeze pennies out of you guys or anything like that. But yeah, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to check out my vlog, and also like other videos to watch. But trying to figure out this whole end screen thing. But until next time, y'all, happy crafting. Bye.